Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding to drink 10 energy drinks in a single day. Maybe you have an exam, a gaming marathon, or you're trying to survive a brutal work shift. 10 cans don't sound impossible, right? After all, they're sold everywhere, and millions of people drink them every day. But what if I told you that by the end of those 24 hours, your brain could be experiencing something very close to a chemical roller coaster? From extreme alertness to anxiety, memory problems, hallucinations, and even potentially life-threatening consequences, what happens inside your head is far stranger than most people realize. But before we get to the scary part, let's start with our number one. The moment you crack open your first energy drink, caffeine immediately begins entering your bloodstream. Within about 15 to 45 minutes, it reaches your brain. There, it blocks a chemical called adenosine. Normally, adenosine acts like your brain's sleep signal. Throughout the day, it builds up and makes you feel tired. Caffeine basically tricks your brain into thinking it isn't exhausted. Suddenly, you feel more awake, more focused, and maybe even happier. That's because caffeine also increases dopamine, one of the chemicals associated with motivation and reward. Now imagine doing this again and again and again. By the time you've consumed 3 or 4 energy drinks, your brain is operating in overdrive. You might feel invincible. Your thoughts are moving faster, your reaction time improves, and you may become unusually talkative. Many people mistake this phase for peak productivity, but behind the scenes, your nervous system is beginning to sound alarm bells. Your body doesn't know the difference between consuming excessive caffeine and facing an actual threat. As far as your brain is concerned, something serious is happening. And here's where things start getting interesting. Your brain responds by releasing stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. These are the same chemicals that flood your body when you're being chased by something dangerous. Your heart beats faster, blood pressure rises, pupils dilate, your senses become sharper. For a short period, this might actually feel amazing, but maintaining that state for hours isn't what the human brain evolved to do. Around the 5th or 6th energy drink, another problem starts appearing. The amount of caffeine in your system has become so high that your brain's communication network begins getting overloaded. Neurons fire more rapidly than normal. Thoughts become harder to organize. You may start feeling restless or jittery. Some people experience trembling hands. Others report racing thoughts that jump from one idea to another without stopping. But wait, it gets even stranger. Scientists have found that excessive caffeine can interfere with working memory, which is your mental notepad your brain uses to hold information temporarily. Imagine trying to solve a problem while someone constantly erases half the notes on your whiteboard. That's essentially what can happen. Instead of becoming smarter and more productive, your brain starts becoming less efficient. And that's only halfway through our 10-drink challenge. By energy drink number 7 or 8, your brain enters unfamiliar territory. Anxiety levels can skyrocket. Remember, your body is still pumping out stress hormones. Your nervous system is stuck in permanent fight or flight mode. Small things suddenly feel overwhelming. Normal sounds seem louder. Your heart pounding in your chest can make you think something terrible is happening. Some people describe this stage as feeling like they're having a panic attack. What's scary is that panic attacks themselves create more adrenaline, which makes the symptoms even worse. It's like pouring gasoline onto a fire. The brain becomes trapped in a vicious cycle. Now here's a question that sounds like science fiction. Can too much caffeine actually make you hallucinate? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. Several medical reports have documented cases where extremely high caffeine intake caused people to hear voices, see things that weren't there, or experience paranoid thoughts. Scientists believe this may happen because excessive stimulation affects dopamine pathways in the brain. Sleep deprivation, which often accompanies heavy caffeine consumption, makes things even worse. A sleep-deprived brain can struggle to distinguish reality from imagination. Think about that for a moment. Something sold at almost every convenience store can, under extreme conditions, push the human brain into a state where reality itself becomes distorted. But we're not done yet. As the 24 hours continue, another problem develops. Energy drinks don't actually create energy, they borrow it. Eventually, your brain demands repayment. This is known as the caffeine crash. The chemicals that caffeine blocked earlier begin flooding back. Adenosine levels have continued building all day, and now they come crashing down all at once. Suddenly, exhaustion hits like a truck. Concentration disappears. Motivation evaporates. Your brain feels foggy and slow. Ironically, after spending an entire day trying to stay awake, you may feel more exhausted than if you'd gotten no caffeine at all. But even then, sleep might not come easily. High levels of caffeine can remain in your system for many hours. In some people, half of the caffeine consumed is still present 6 hours later. This means your brain may desperately need sleep while simultaneously being unable to achieve it. The result is frustration, insomnia, and further mental exhaustion. And lack of sleep creates problems of its own. Sleep is when your brain performs maintenance. It strengthens memories, clears waste products, regulates emotions, and restores cognitive performance. Missing out on this process is like skipping maintenance on a machine. The damage isn't always immediate, but eventually things start breaking down. Here's another shocking fact. 10 energy drinks in 24 hours could easily provide over 3,000 milligrams of caffeine, depending on the brand. For comparison, most health experts recommend no more than 400 milligrams per day for healthy adults. That means our hypothetical person could be consuming 7 or 8 times the recommended limit. At those levels, symptoms can include severe anxiety, vomiting, confusion, muscle spasms, irregular heartbeat, seizures, and in rare cases, death. Doctors even have a medical term for it: caffeine intoxication. And no, this isn't just theoretical. Emergency rooms around the world have treated patients suffering from excessive caffeine consumption. Teenagers, athletes, gamers, and exhausted workers have all ended up needing medical attention after underestimating how powerful caffeine really is. But here's the fascinating part. Your brain is incredibly adaptable. If you regularly consume energy drinks, your brain slowly adjusts by producing more adenosine receptors. That's why people who drink caffeine daily often need larger amounts to achieve the same effect. What once gave you a boost eventually becomes your new normal. In other words, your brain is constantly trying to restore balance. That's also why quitting caffeine suddenly can produce headaches, fatigue, irritability, and difficulty concentrating. Your brain has to readjust all over again. So, if 10 energy drinks are bad, does that mean energy drinks themselves are evil? Not necessarily. For most healthy adults, moderate caffeine intake is generally considered safe. The real danger comes from extremes. Drinking one energy drink occasionally is very different from consuming 10 in a single day. Dose matters, timing matters, sleep matters, hydration matters, and everyone's body processes caffeine differently. Some people can drink coffee before bed and sleep like babies. Others become anxious after a single can. Genetics play a huge role in how quickly caffeine is broken down. In a sense, every brain reacts differently. Which brings us back to our original question. What actually happens to your brain if you drink 10 energy drinks in 24 hours? At first, you feel sharper and more alert. Then stress hormones rise. Thoughts become disorganized. Anxiety increases. Memory suffers. Sleep becomes impossible. Hallucinations and paranoia become possible in extreme cases. Eventually, the brain crashes under the weight of overstimulation and exhaustion. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson of all. Your brain isn't a machine that can run endlessly with enough caffeine. It's an incredibly complex organ that depends on balance. Sleep, nutrition, and rest aren't weaknesses, they're requirements. So, the next time you reach for another energy drink, remember this: your brain is keeping score, even when you think you're getting away with it. And now, I've got a challenge for you. What's the most caffeinated thing you've ever consumed? 1 cup of coffee? 3 energy drinks? Something even crazier? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you learned something new today, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell, because you never know what strange question we'll dive into next. And trust me, some of the answers are even more unbelievable than this one.